When my husband finally told me what he really wanted, I couldn't help but laugh at first. I honestly thought he was joking. How could he be serious? We were sitting at the kitchen table late at night. The kids were already asleep upstairs. The dishwasher was running in the background. I had just poured him a glass of wine, something we hadn't done together in months. And then, he looked at me with a serious face and said something that made my stomach turn. What he asked for wasn't just unexpected or inappropriate. It was unimaginable. But instead of shouting, crying, or storming out, do you know what I did? I laughed softly, nervously. It was the kind of laugh you make when your mind can't catch up with your emotions. I laughed because it felt easier than breaking down. But then he said, "No, babe. I'm serious." That's when everything inside me changed. Have you ever had one of those moments where the silence in the room feels deafening? Where the person you've shared everything with suddenly feels like a stranger? That's how I felt. Sitting there in my own kitchen, hearing my husband, who I thought I knew so well, make a request. And not just any request, but one that involved me and my sister. Honestly, I'm not proud of what happened next. I don't fully understand why I said yes. Maybe it was all the years of feeling unseen. Maybe it was the emptiness I'd been trying to fill in quiet, private, and even desperate ways. Or maybe, just maybe, I was too afraid to say no. But if you're here to judge me, this might not be the story for you. This isn't just about cheating. It's about feeling unwanted. It's about loneliness, even when you're surrounded by people. It's about being so emotionally hungry that when someone, maybe even the wrong person, notices you, you say yes just to feel something. What started with one awkward dinner ended with my sister crying in my bathroom, me staring at my reflection, wondering who I had become. And my husband, the man who once promised to protect my heart, walking away from the mess he helped create like it was just another normal day. But before I tell you everything, and I will, take a moment to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga. Here, we don't sugarcoat the truth. We share the raw, messy stories that people are too afraid to say out loud. And if you've ever felt invisible in your marriage, if you've ever wondered how far someone might go just to feel noticed again, then maybe you'll understand why I said yes. Let's go back a little. 14 years. That's how long Daniel and I have been married. We've built a life, 2 kids, a mortgage, soccer games, PTA meetings, couple dinners, the whole picture. On the outside, it's the kind of life people envy. But paper lies. It doesn't show the distance between us. How 2 people can share a bed every night, but feel a million miles apart. It doesn't show how many nights I sat at the edge of that bed, looking at his back, wondering if he even remembered what it felt like to touch me with love, not just out of habit. I used to be full of life. I was the kind of woman who laughed too loud, danced barefoot in the kitchen, wore red lipstick for no reason. But over time, I don't know. I guess the color just slowly faded away. Like a sunset that keeps dimming, never quite ending, until you're in the dark and didn't even notice it. Now I'm 42, still married, still loyal, still doing the dishes while he texts someone under the table. Daniel, my husband, is successful. He runs a tech company, drives a fancy car, and wears a cologne that sticks to everything he touches. To everyone else, he's charming, smart, and polished. But to me, he's a ghost. He's there physically, but hasn't really been present in years. He's the kind of husband who remembers birthdays but forgets to ask if I'm okay. He'll buy me a new phone, but he hasn't looked me in the eyes during dinner since our youngest was a little kid. He smiles at waitresses, cracks jokes with the moms at school pickup, but at home, I get silence. Sometimes, I get indifference. The worst part? I stopped asking for more, because at some point, silence becomes easier than rejection. Then there's Maya, my sister. She's 7 years younger than me, and she's the kind of woman people notice when she walks into a room. She's not trying to stand out, she just is. Carefree, always light, always happy. She used to dance on tables while I cleaned up the mess. I never really envied her, well, not until I did. She moved in with us a few months ago after a bad breakup. She thought she was going to marry a guy, but he ended up ghosting her after 2 years together. She was heartbroken. As her big sister, I did what any big sister would do. I made space for her in our home, in our routine, in my life. It was supposed to be temporary. Our house looks beautiful. 3 bedrooms, a perfect lawn, warm lighting that gives off just the right glow. It looks like a happy family lives here, but it's all a facade. Like a model home, no mess, no life. The kitchen still smells like vanilla candles and burnt coffee. There are family photos on the walls, smiling faces, matching outfits, bright teeth. But sometimes, when I look at them, they don't feel like us anymore. They feel like strangers, like a life we were pretending to have. Behind those smiles, there's cold dinners, missed calls, and arguments that never exploded but just built up quietly. And then there were the glances. Subtle ones, between Daniel and Maya. I started noticing it in small moments, the way he looked at her when she laughed, how he became suddenly helpful when she was around, the way his eyes lingered just a second too long when she walked into the room wearing one of those loose t-shirts she loved to wear at home. At first, I brushed it off. He was just being kind. Maya was hurting, and he was just trying to make her feel welcome, right? But my gut told me something else. It always does, that quiet, uneasy feeling when something's off. Still, I ignored it, because facing it would mean accepting a truth I wasn't ready for. And honestly, I had enough unanswered questions about our marriage already. So, we played house. I smiled when I needed to, kept Maya comfortable, kept Daniel calm, and kept myself together. On the outside, we looked like a happy family, but on the inside, the walls were falling apart. Like termites eating away at everything I thought I had. And somehow, deep down, I knew all it would take was one spark, one bold, awful, reckless spark to burn it all down. And Daniel, he was holding the match. It happened on a Saturday night. Just the 3 of us, me, Daniel, and Maya, sitting around the dining table. The kids already tucked into bed. The house unusually quiet. There was music playing softly in the background. Some mellow jazz Daniel always puts on when he's trying to set a mood, though I never really knew what kind. We'd just finished dinner. I made chicken piccata. Maya brought out the cheap bottle of red wine she loved. We were full, warm, and just tipsy enough to let our guard slip, even if just a little. We laughed about something. Maya said, I can't even remember what it was now, just something light and silly. And then, out of nowhere, Daniel leaned back in his chair, took a slow sip of wine, and said, Isn't it wild how liberated some couples are these days? At first, it didn't register. I thought he meant emotionally, spiritually maybe. So I tilted my head and asked, liberated how? And then he said it. You know, like those couples who aren't so possessive, who share more freely. With trust, with love. Like open-minded stuff, polyamory, that sort of thing. He said it so casually, so smooth, like he was commenting on the weather, like we were just talking about a podcast, not whatever this was becoming. I felt my fingers tighten around my wine glass. Maya giggled, genuinely, innocently, and rolled her eyes. Oh, God, you've been watching those weird documentaries again, she said, shaking her head and popping a grape into her mouth like nothing had just shifted. And me? I laughed too, but it wasn't real. It was the kind of laugh that comes out of your mouth before your heart gets a chance to react, because my heart was starting to race. The conversation moved on, or at least they let it. Daniel poured another round of wine. Maya grabbed a blanket and curled up on the couch with her legs tucked beneath her, like she'd done it 100 times before. And I cleaned up the dishes with hands that suddenly felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. But my mind was stuck. Stuck on that sentence. Stuck on the way he looked at me when he said, "Someone close. Someone you trust." I didn't say anything that night. Not while Maya was around. Not when we all said our goodnights and I climbed into bed next to him. Not even when I stared up at the ceiling in the dark, listening to his steady breathing beside me, calm, content, like he hadn't just cracked open something I wasn't ready to look at. It wasn't until the next night, after Maya had gone out for a walk and the kids were off playing their video games, that he brought it up again. We were in the kitchen. I was wiping down the counter. He was standing behind me. Quiet. Thoughtful. Too quiet. "You know I'd never hurt you," he said. I froze, because that sentence always means something's coming. And whatever it was, I knew it wouldn't be good. "I mean it," he continued. "I would never, ever do anything to betray you. But if you were open to it, we could be closer than ever." I turned around slowly. "Daniel, what are you talking about?" And then he said it plainly, with no shame, no hesitation. "I'm saying, what if we included Maya?" My heart dropped. My body went cold. "I'm not saying anything has to happen," he added quickly. "But just think about it. The three of us, we love each other. We trust each other. It's not like it would be cheating. It would be something new. Something deep." I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stood there, dish in hand, staring at this man I thought I knew. This man who used to kiss my forehead before work. Who cried when our daughter was born. Who used to whisper "I love you" into the back of my neck when he thought I was asleep. And now he was asking me to share him with my sister. I felt nauseous, like the room was tilting slightly beneath my feet. But the scariest part? It wasn't just his words. It was the look in his eyes, calm, focused, hopeful. He meant it. Every word. And that's when I realized this wasn't a fantasy to him. This wasn't some drunken joke. This was a wish he'd been carrying for a while. And now he had finally said it out loud. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in our bed beside Daniel, staring up at the ceiling, trying to understand what had just happened. He had asked me to bring my sister into our marriage. Into our bed. Not as a joke. Not in passing. But like it was something beautiful. Natural. Logical. And all I could think was, he hasn't touched me in months. Not a hand on my back when I passed by. Not a kiss that lingered. Not even a look that said, "You're still beautiful to me." But now he wanted both of us. Me and Maya. I turned onto my side that night and looked at him. His face was so peaceful, so calm, like he had finally unburdened himself. And all I felt was chaos, this swirling, suffocating storm inside my chest that I couldn't quiet down. No matter how still I lay, I couldn't stop the images in my head. Flashes of Maya in her tank tops, dancing around the kitchen, laughing at Daniel's dry jokes like he was the funniest man on earth. I remembered that time last month when we were grilling outside and Maya spilled her drink. Daniel rushed to grab a towel, but it was the way he touched her back so gently, and the way she smiled up at him. I told myself it was innocent. But now I didn't know. Was it always happening under my nose? Had I been blind? Or had I just chosen not to see? I tried to think rationally. He came to me first, I told myself. He didn't sneak around. He didn't cheat behind my back. He gave me a choice. Isn't that what people always say they want in a relationship? Honesty. But then another voice inside me, the one I've silenced so many times, whispered, "What kind of man thinks sharing his wife with her sister is love?" I kept trying to reason it out. Was this about passion? Was it about novelty? Was it about control? Or was it about something so much darker that I wasn't ready to name? I spent the next few days walking around in a fog. I smiled when I needed to, got the kids ready for school, folded the laundry, texted my friends back with emojis and exclamation points, but inside, I was unraveling. Every sound in the house felt amplified. Every silence felt suspicious. And Maya? She was just being Maya. Laughing loudly at TikToks, playing board games with the kids, making smoothie bowls in the morning like she didn't know she was at the center of a bomb that was about to go off. One morning, I tried to test the waters just casually over coffee. I said, "You ever think about how weird some relationships are now? Like how open some people get?" She blinked, confused. "You mean like poly stuff?" "Yeah," I said, stirring my cup even though there was nothing left to stir. "Could you ever see yourself in something like that?" She laughed, almost choking on her toast. "Oh my God, no. I'm too emotionally jealous. I'd lose my mind." Then she added, "Wait, did someone hit on you and Daniel?" She was joking, but I couldn't laugh because in that moment, I realized something so heavy it almost crushed me. She had no idea. No clue what Daniel was thinking. No clue what he wanted. No clue what I was now being asked to consider. And yet, every day they got closer, inside jokes I wasn't part of, playful swats, touches that lingered just long enough to make me wonder if I was imagining things. One night, I stood outside the guest room, the one Maya was staying in. The door was slightly ajar. The lights were off except for the soft glow of her TV screen. And I heard them. Both of them. Daniel had gone in to check on something, that's what he told me, but then came laughter. Low, easy, familiar. Then I heard my name. I couldn't make out the sentence, just the way it ended. And then Maya giggled, that innocent, unguarded sound I knew so well, followed by silence. It wasn't flirty. Not exactly. But it wasn't nothing either. And that's the thing about these moments, they live in the gray. In the subtle shifts, the almosts, the unsaid. I stood there for what felt like forever, listening, waiting, breathing too quietly. And in that moment, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. If I didn't make a decision soon, they might make it for me. After that night outside Maya's room, something in me shifted. I didn't confront Daniel. I didn't scream or demand answers. I just started watching him. Every little moment became evidence, every smile. Every touch. Every time Maya called his name with that sweet, teasing tone, the same one she used on boyfriends years ago. And Daniel? He started to change. He became more attentive. Brought home flowers one afternoon, lilies, my favorite, though he hadn't bought them for me in almost 2 years. Texted me during the day, not about errands or bills, but little things. Compliments. And one night, out of nowhere, he came into the bathroom while I was washing my face, slid his arms around my waist, and whispered, "I miss us." But I knew what he meant. He didn't just miss me. He missed the version of me that might agree to his twisted little dream. Then came the gifts, new earrings, a silk robe, a reservation at that steakhouse we used to love. Each time I thanked him, he'd smile slow and deliberate, like he was saying, "See? Doesn't this feel good?" Then he started using words like adventure, trust, evolution. We've been stuck in a routine too long, he said. Don't we deserve to try new things? Together? He kept saying that word, together, like this was some beautiful new stage of love he was offering. But all I felt was dread, quietly blooming like mold beneath the floorboards. Then, one day, Daniel made a suggestion, casual, like it was no big deal. Why don't we do a weekend getaway, he said over dinner. Just us and Maya. The kids can stay with my sister. I blinked. You want the three of us to go? Yeah, he smiled. Like old times. Before all the work stress. Maya could use a break too. Let's just unwind. Get back to feeling like us again. Maya lit up. A beach weekend? Yes, please. I need sun and wine like yesterday. I looked at both of them, so casual, so unaware. Or maybe not. Maybe they were both acting. But I smiled. And I said yes. The beach house was beautiful. Too beautiful. A glass-paneled modern thing perched right on the coast. You could hear the waves crashing through the open windows. Everything smelled like salt and sunlight. We arrived on a Friday. By Friday night, I already knew I'd made a mistake. There was too much wine. Too much laughter. Too many moments that felt just slightly off. Daniel brought a speaker, and by sunset, we were dancing barefoot on the patio. Maya spun around in her sundress, twirling, laughing, glowing under the orange sky. And Daniel? He watched her. Not with subtlety. Not anymore. His hand rested on her waist a second too long when they brushed past each other. He laughed too hard at her jokes. Stood too close. And once, just once, I caught him looking at her the way he used to look at me. Maya didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did but didn't know what to make of it. She was sweet that weekend, thoughtful, kept calling it family bonding time. She talked about how good it felt to be safe and close to people who actually care. And all I could think was, if she knew the truth, she'd never forgive either of us. By Saturday night, the air felt thick. One of those nights where everything looks normal on the outside, but something underneath is buzzing. We'd just finished dinner, seafood on the grill, another bottle of wine. Maya went upstairs to shower. Daniel sat next to me on the sofa, close enough for our thighs to touch. He looked at me like he was trying to read my mind. I know this feels scary, he said softly. But it doesn't have to be. This could bring us closer than ever. Just one night. Just one time. For us. For the bond we've always wanted. I couldn't speak. My chest felt like it was cracking open. I looked at him, really looked, and saw a man I didn't recognize anymore. Someone calm in the face of destruction. Someone who believed in what he was asking. And the worst part? Somewhere deep in me, there was a part that wanted to believe him too. To believe this would fill the hollow space between us. To believe this would finally make me enough. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the fear. Maybe it was the twisted hope that I could control what came next if I just gave in. But I nodded. Just once. Soft. Small. And everything after that became a blur I can never erase. That night was quiet. Too quiet. After I nodded, nothing happened right away. Daniel didn't jump into action. He just sat there next to me, smiling almost tenderly. He touched my hand, kissed it, and whispered, "Trust me." And somehow, I followed. Maya came down later, hair damp from the shower, wearing one of Daniel's oversized sweatshirts and pajama shorts. She looked like the little sister I used to braid hair for. tuck in. Protect from nightmares. She looked young, and I felt ancient. We sat on the couch, the wine still flowing, the air warm from the fireplace. And Daniel said it just like that. We were thinking maybe we try something tonight. The three of us. Maya blinked. Her face fell into confusion and disbelief. What? She laughed, but it was that nervous kind, the one that rises too high and too fast. You're joking, right? Daniel looked at her, calm, steady. No, he said. We trust you. We love you. You trust us. It doesn't have to be weird. Just something beautiful ***. Maya turned to me, eyes wide, almost pleading. Wait, are you okay with this? Are you sure? I didn't answer. I couldn't. The words were stuck somewhere between my ribs and my throat. So Daniel answered for both of us. We're sure, he said. This is about connection. We want to feel closer. All of us. And then things just started moving. I didn't stop them. I didn't say a word. I just watched it unfold like I wasn't inside my own body, like I was hovering above us all, a silent witness to my own unraveling. Maya sat back, still unsure, still processing. Daniel moved toward her slowly. And I stayed still, not out of comfort, not out of consent, but out of numbness. It was like watching a car drift toward the edge of a cliff and doing nothing to stop it. But then, right before anything truly happened, before that final line was crossed, Maya pulled back. Fast. Her face changed. Her whole body stiffened. She stood up, shaking her head. Her voice cracked when she spoke. This isn't right, she said. I can't do this. This is insane. What are we doing? She looked at me, really looked, and in her eyes, I saw something break. Then she turned and bolted upstairs, ran into the guest bathroom and locked the door behind her. I didn't chase her. Daniel didn't either. We just sat there, surrounded by silence, the kind that feels alive. Heavy. Loud. Filled with everything we couldn't say. Daniel stood up slowly, ran a hand through his hair, and muttered. She'll be okay. It's just a lot all at once. Like that made it better. Like that erased what just happened. But me? I sat frozen on that couch in that beach house, with the fire crackling beside me and a glass of untouched wine in my hand, and all I could think was, what did I just let happen? Maya didn't come out that night. We heard her crying softly once through the door. And that was the last time, the very last time, she ever looked me in the eye. I lost her that night. Not because of what happened, but because of what almost happened. Because I didn't stop it. Because I didn't protect her. Or myself. Because I let silence speak for me. And silence said everything. Maya was gone by morning. No goodbyes. No confrontation. No note. Just gone. I heard the front door close around 6 a.m., peeked out the window and saw her tossing her duffel bag into the back seat of her car. She didn't look back at the house. Didn't check if we were watching. Didn't care. And honestly, I wouldn't have either. Daniel was still sleeping when she left. Or at least pretending to be. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor for what felt like hours. The carpet beneath my feet felt too soft. The air in the room felt too warm. Everything was wrong. And when Daniel finally opened his eyes, he yawned like it was any other morning, like nothing had happened, like we hadn't shattered something sacred just hours before. He sat up, stretched, and smiled at me. Smiled. Then he said it, that sentence that still makes my stomach twist whenever I think about it. You were brave last night. We're stronger now. Stronger? I felt like a piece of glass cracked down the center. Still whole, technically, but one touch away from shattering completely. The ride home from the beach house was quiet. Daniel drove with one hand on the wheel, sunglasses on, humming to the radio. I stared out the window the entire time, gripping the hem of my sweater until my knuckles turned white. I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know how to talk to myself. Back home, everything was too normal. The kids ran up to us as we walked through the door, asking if we brought them shells or treats, telling us about their weekend at Aunt Sharon's. I smiled. I hugged them. I pretended. But something inside me was collapsing. Every step I took in that house felt like walking on broken glass. Maya's door was open. Empty. Her bed was made. Her toothbrush gone. No scent of her shampoo. No scattered bracelets on the bathroom sink. Just a space hollowed out. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing her face the exact moment she stood up. Tears in her eyes, shaking her head. The way she said, "This isn't right. I can't do this. This is insane." And my silence. My complete, unforgivable silence. Over and over, the scene played. Me, watching her run. Me, frozen on that couch. Me, not moving, not speaking, not saving her. And then her eyes, those big, trusting eyes, looking at me like I wasn't her sister anymore. Because in that moment, I wasn't. Daniel went back to work the next day like nothing had changed. He kissed me on the cheek before he left, called over his shoulder. "Let's do something just the two of us this weekend. You deserve it." And I stood in the kitchen, still in my pajamas, staring at the toaster like it might answer the question I couldn't even ask out loud. The kids noticed first. At dinner, my youngest asked, "Where's Aunt Maya?" I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. Daniel didn't flinch. He just kept eating like he hadn't heard. So I forced a smile, brittle and hollow, and said, "She's just taking some space. She needed time." My daughter tilted her head. "Is she mad at us?" "No, sweetie," I lied. "She just needs to be by herself for a while." But inside, I knew the truth. She needed to be anywhere but near me. Days passed, but they didn't feel like days. They felt like echoes, like I was reliving the same empty, aching rhythm over and over. I tried texting Maya once. Just once. "I'm sorry. Please call me. Just tell me you're okay." She never responded. And deep down, I knew she wouldn't, because how do you answer someone who stood by and watched you fall and did nothing to catch you? The worst part? It wasn't the silence. It wasn't even the guilt. It was the fact that, for a moment, even a single moment, I considered it. I opened that door. And when I did, I didn't just lose my sister. I lost a part of myself I might never get back. I started journaling again. Not because I thought it would fix anything, but because I had nowhere else to put the weight, the heaviness, the shame, the noise inside my head. The first sentence I wrote, I stared at for a long time before the pen even moved. It wasn't just his wish. And the second line came out like a confession I didn't know I was carrying. A part of me wanted it too. Not the act. Not the actual thing he asked for. But the attention. The idea of being wanted, desired, seen. After years of feeling invisible, overlooked, taken for granted, there was something so dangerously tempting about feeling like someone saw me again. Even if the spotlight came from the wrong stage. even if it was poison at the root. And then I wrote a question I still don't have an answer to. Did I say yes to feel closer to my husband, or just to feel anything at all? Because that's the part no one tells you about emotional starvation. It doesn't always lead you to someone else. Sometimes, it leads you to yourself, the darkest, loneliest version of you. The one who agrees to things you swore you never would. The one who lets silence speak on her behalf. The one who betrays herself just to keep from disappearing. I've been playing that night on a loop in my mind. Not just the obvious moment. Not just Maya crying. Not just the silence that followed. But everything before. The way Daniel looked at her when she left. The way I kept glancing between them like an outsider in my own marriage. The way I let it happen. Because a part of me thought, maybe, just maybe, if I said yes, he'd love me again. Not lust. Not possession. Love. Real, steady, soft around the edges love. But I was wrong. Because whatever we had before, it's gone now. Burned down. Ashes and silence and unanswered texts. I tried calling Maya again last night. Just once. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. What could I even say? I'm sorry I stood still when I should have protected you. I'm sorry I let my loneliness blind me. I miss you every day, and I hate myself more than you ever could. No message would undo what happened. And silence? Silence is what I deserve now. Daniel acts like we're fine. Better even. He holds my hand sometimes now. Brings home takeout. Kisses me on the forehead when he leaves for work. This morning, he kissed my cheek light, casual, like it meant something. And I stood in the doorway, watching his car pull out of the driveway, wondering, who is this man, really? The one who spoke of love while asking me to open a door I should have slammed shut. The one who called me brave for offering myself like a gift when in reality, I was breaking. And then I whispered something I hadn't let myself say out loud until that moment. I'm not sure I'll ever love him again. I said it quietly, like if I whispered it, maybe it wouldn't hurt so much. But it did. And then the second part followed, the one I'd been avoiding, the one that hit deeper than anything else. And worse. I'm not sure I'll ever forgive myself ***. Because the damage isn't just out there. It's inside me. And some cracks. They don't heal. They just live with you. Have you ever felt so unseen, so unloved, so completely forgotten in your own life that you said yes to something you knew deep down was wrong? I still ask myself that question every day. Was I selfish? Or just broken? Because it's easy to point fingers from the outside, to say what should have happened, to say what you would have done. But when you're living in that silence, that echo chamber of being ignored, dismissed, starved for connection, your judgment, it starts to bend. You start to make choices that don't look like you. You rationalize. You whisper things to yourself like, it's just once. Or, it might fix things. And by the time you realize the price, it's already too late. If you've ever been in a place like that, if you've ever found yourself craving something that didn't make sense, something that chipped away at your soul while promising to fill it, then maybe you understand. And if you don't, I hope you never have to. If you have advice, or a story of your own, or even just kindness, please share it in the comments. Not just for me. For anyone watching this who's standing on the edge of a decision they can't take back. And please, don't judge Maya. She didn't know. She walked into a house that looked like love from the outside and had no idea what was rotting underneath. She was innocent. And I don't blame her. Not anymore. I blame the silence. the things unsaid. The part of me that broke and let it all happen. If this story touched something in you, if it made you feel seen, even in the smallest way, I invite you to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga. Because here, we don't pretend. We tell the real stories, the ones that live in the gray, where right and wrong blur, and the heart doesn't always follow the rules. Loneliness doesn't just whisper. It roars. And sometimes, we answer not because we believe in what we're agreeing to, but because we're desperate to hear anything echo back. Desperate to be noticed. Held. Chosen. But here's what I've learned painfully, quietly. Be careful what you agree to in silence. Because sometimes, the things we say yes to, they don't just haunt us. They change us. And no amount of sorry can bring us back to who we were.